Hello everyone and welcome to another how-to about Ventuz. Today I will show you how you simply can set up a cluster with Ventuz. Here the setup what I will do today. I have basically 3 machines. I have here my main machine and over there I have 2 other runtimes. You can see each screen is basically a computer which runs Ventuz. So this is my Office B1 here with a mini computer, and this is my Office B2 also here with a mini computer. And this is the main machine which I will use. I will show you how you can bring that 2 Office B machines basically into one cluster with Ventuz, okay? So to do that, you simply have to start here the Ventuz launcher. And of course, I'm working here now on my third machine, on my main machine, right? So once the Ventuz launcher is open, then you can click here on this top left button. And then you can see here with that little home, that's always the local machine where you're working on. And of course, you can see all the other machines which have Ventuz 8 installed in my case, right? So there is another computer and here these 2 Office Bs. Yeah, Office B1 is that very left one. Office B2 is this one here. And of course, that Office Mat, that's the machine over here, okay? To bring machines into a cluster, you simply have to bring them into the same group first, okay? So let me select that Office B1, that very left machine, and then we go here to our configuration. And under General, we can see by default all the machines have the ID 0, that's the machine ID, and the group ID 0 as well, okay? So I bring that 2 Office Bs now into group ID 1, right? So I bring it to 1 here, I activate it. Let's select the second one, and as you can see, once we have a machine larger than 0, then a Ventuz will automatically create that group 1, okay? So my Office B1 is inside that group. I also have to bring in my Office B2 because these 2 machines over there I want to have in one cluster. So let's bring in Office B2 as well to group 1 activated. And now you can see in group 1 we have now that 2 machines which I actually want to run in one cluster, okay? So second thing what you have to do, the machines also need unique IDs, machine IDs, right? So you can either call them 0 and 1, but I actually prefer to call machine 1 machine ID 1. Let's do that, activate it. And my Office B2 will have also another unique ID, and that's 2. Let's also activate it. And now let's check that in that group again. Then you can see here in group 1 we have Office B1 and Office B2, and the machine ID over here of Office B1 is 1 and of Office B2 is 2. Okay, so this is the first step, what you have to do. Of course, you also have to make sure that all the machines are in the same network, right? Because else they can't see each other. I also suggest that you run the same Ventuz version. So next step, what we have to do, we will go here to our project browser. And if we select now our group, then we actually can see which projects are installed on all the machines in that cluster, right? So I will use basically the default Ventuz scene, that orangey one, you will see that very soon. But let's say you have your own Ventuz presentation and you want to upload that to all the machines in the cluster, right? Then you simply select here that group, like I did here already, and then you have to switch here to the project browser. And then you see you have here that upload button. And if you press that upload button, then you can drag and drop your VPRs, your Ventuz presentation files into here, press upload, and then Ventuz will automatically upload your Ventuz presentation to all the machines in the cluster. Okay, so that's very important. Let's go now back here to the configuration. If we go here to that render setup, or maybe let me go back one step first, because if we are in the configuration now and we selected here our group, right, then we can see here in the status, under the configuration, all the machines which are in that cluster, right, with the machine name, with the version, Ventuz version installed, group ID, machine ID, the IP address of each of these machines, and all the Ventuz services that are running on each of that machines, okay? Down here we have now that status error disconnected because we didn't start any presentation yet. If we click here to our render setup, then we can see all the projects that are installed on both machines in that cluster. And I want to show you today that Ventuz default, okay? So let's do first thing. I didn't set up a render setup for that cluster yet, and I also didn't set up any device or machine configurations for my Office B1. I can show you that here, right? So if I select my Office B1 and if I go to configuration, to my machine configuration, I didn't set up any machine configuration or device configuration, okay? But again, I just want to show you what happens now. If I select that group and I go here to my render setup, then I simply select here my Ventuz default and I press start. And as you see, I didn't touch the two machines at all, right? So I do everything from this one machine, right? Because I simply can control everything basically from here. And now you can see already on our runtimes, the runtime is starting, the same project, right? And they are running now basically the same project, but of course something is missing, yeah, because we want to basically create a span, right? So from this machine to this machine, that this is basically one large screen, okay? So over here, we also can remotely kill that Ventuz runtime. So, okay, let's do that. And now the two runtimes just killed basically the Ventuz process without touching that machines. That's also very handy, right? To make sure the render setup is working properly, let's start first to make a simple machine device setup for our two cluster machines, right? So in my Office B1, I select it and then I go here configuration, I go to machine and to device actually, and then I simply create a new one and I call that cluster. Let's create that. And as you can see here now, I mean, it's a very simple setup. I think it will also work without creating that device configuration, because we only have one screen connected, right? But of course, to make it clean and also understandable for you, because mostly you will have more than one screen on one cluster machine, right? Let's assign here our first output. We only have one per machine. So let's do that. Let's save it. Let's close it and let's also activate it, right? And let's do the same for our Office B2. Let's go here. Let's create a new device configuration. Let's call it cluster and create it. And here we do the same. We simply drag in that one screen, which is connected to that, and we save it, we close it, and we activate it as well, okay? So now we go back to our group, select our group, and then we go here to our render setup again. Because here in our render setup, we can create render setups, and that render setups basically bound to the projects. Okay, so if I create here now for my CI presentation a render setup, this will only apply for this presentation, right? I want to create a render setup for this Ventuz default scene. To do that, I simply select that Ventuz default with the cluster selected, and I create here a new cluster setup. Let's call it also cluster and press enter. And by default, you can see we have a default composition and we have a default screen, right? So let's keep that for now. And let's say my default screen here, I will call left screen, right? Let's call it left screen. And let's create another screen. And let's add that screen here. And this one will be my right screen. Right screen, like basically here we do the layout same like in the physical world, right? Left screen, right screen. Okay, so now they are lying above each other. So we simply now move that right screen over here to the right, zoom out with the mouse wheel and put that here. And as you can see, our composition here also is nicely adjusting based on our screen layout, right? So this is, you can basically also manually change it. If you select it fit to screens, and if you move the screens, then the composition will automatically also adjust, okay? So second thing what we have to do here, we have to go to our mapping. And in this mapping, we basically have to define which machine should run which part of the scene, right? So my first machine, let's go here. So my first machine with the ID 1 should run the left part of the scene, right? And my machine 2 should run the right part on this part of the scene, basically. So let's go again back to the mapping. And now we have by default already our machine ID with 0 by default. But as you remember, we don't use the default 0 as machine ID. We used for our first machine, we used the machine ID 1. Let's change that here. Okay, and it's already by default the left screen assigned. We also can delete that. And then we can simply drag and drop in here the left screen, right? So we also need to tell Ventuz, please, what he should do with the machine ID 2, basically, right? So let's create another machine. So we click here, add machines. Let's add this machine. And down here we have a machine with ID 2, no screen assigned, it's black. And this machine we know should run the right side of our scene, right here from the layout. Okay, once this is good, let's double check it. Machine ID 1 is our Office B1, will play out the left screen, the left side of our scene. And the machine with the ID 2, our Office B2, should play out the right part of our screen, right, or of our scene. Let's save that, let's close it, and let's also activate it here. And now let's start this. Let me also switch here to the full screen view, because then you can see what's happening. And let's see if that works. Next and last thing what I want to show you, as you can see here now, we have here that edge of our screens, right? So we basically can adjust that as well in our render setup. And also here the level or the height is not 100% even, right? So let's also adjust that quickly. And the good thing or the cool thing is also we can do that live in Ventuz. So let me switch back here to our recording view. And maybe I make this a bit larger and move that here down here. Exactly, so you should be able to see what's happening, right? Okay, so let's adjust that live now. So I simply select my render setup, the cluster, and click here to edit. And here on top you have that live button. If you select this, and if I go now to my right screen and I move that a bit around, then you can see already you actually adjust live the scene, right? So you also can select the screen and can move it with your cursor buttons up, down, left, right. So let's bring that a little bit, our right screen to the right. So we will reduce that edge, or we will add that edge basically, right? That real edge. And I also bring it a bit more up because that right screen is a bit more up. And as you can see, this looks pretty good already. So once you're happy with that, you simply uncheck that live, save it, close it, and you're done. Of course, you also can use many more screens, right? So this is really just that how-to. But again, I already have a how-to, a tutorial about how to do the render setup. I will also link that down here in the description if you want to get a little bit more details about it, how to do a render setup. But obviously, you simply add more screens here in the layout based on your real-time setup, and then you simply map the screens from your layout based on your machines and outputs, right? So if your machine, for example, have machine with the ID 1 runs 2 screens, right? Then you simply add an output here, right, to that machine, and maybe the second one also runs 2 screens. Then you have basically a 2 machine cluster setup with 4 screens, right? So 1 cluster, 4 screens, 2 machines, right? Okay, so I hope this helps you to testing around. Please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you want to know anything more about Ventuz and how-tos. Until then, bye-bye.